Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited that you're here because we are going to sew something really fun, and that is my tennis bag pattern. If you're new here, I'm Duana of Duana Studio, and I have recently started playing tennis. And so, of course, I have to bring my own style into it. I mean, I love tennis. I love watching it. I love the skirts. I love the dresses. But I honestly just really wanted to make something that was my style. When I went looking for a tennis bag, I kept seeing like beige and like green and brown colors. That's not me. I'm sorry. That is not me. So I had to make something a little more fun. Okay. What I love about this tennis bag is that it can actually hold two tennis rackets, not just one. Something that's really cool about this tennis bag is that the racket bag part is actually removable. And then you can add your own straps to carry the racket bag on its own so you don't have to carry the bag. And some things that you can add into the bag is like tennis balls, some shoes. You can add maybe a cloth for if you're sweating, whatever it may be. This bag can do everything. Also, it has pockets on the side for your Stanley Cup. Okay, and it fits. I checked. It fits my Stanley Cup. So I'm excited to get started. And if you're a beginner sewer, this sew along should be easy to follow. And as you're following, I actually have an instruction manual that you can use to help guide you and make it as easy as possible for you to follow along. So let's get started. Here are the materials that you'll need. You'll need your main fabric, the lining fabric, fabric for your straps, or you can use pre-cut straps, foam or batting. I chose foam for this project. Interfacing, and this is Shape Flex. A stabilizer for the base. Double fold bias tape. Maxi piping. Adjustable sliders and rectangle rings or D-rings. You can use either or as far as the rectangle rings and the D-rings. I'm using D-rings. Heavy duty snaps and rivets. A 14-inch zipper with the tape at the bottom. And this is optional, but I use a fusible adhesive for the base stabilizer because it's a little thicker. I didn't want to sew through it. You can also use it with the foam. All right, so that's all you would need aside from the matching thread. All right, so let's clear this out and let's take a look at our pattern pieces. All right, this is pattern piece number 1. This is the front and back of the bag, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining, 2 of interfacing, and 2 of batting. And this is the cut line for lining. All right, this is pattern piece number 2. This is the side panel, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric, 2 of lining, 2 of interfacing, and 2 of batting. And you should also have the cut line for the lining as well. All right, this is pattern piece number 3. This is the base, and you're going to cut 1 of fabric, 1 of lining, 1 of interfacing, and 1 of batting. And the batting and the interfacing could be optional. This is pattern piece number 4. This is the base stabilizer, and you're going to cut 1 of the stabilizer. This is pattern piece number 5. This is the side pockets, and you're going to cut 2 of fabric, 2 of lining, and 2 of interfacing. Interfacing is optional depending on your fabric. This is pattern piece number 6. This is the bag facing. You're going to cut 1 of fabric, 1 of interfacing, and 1 of batting, which are actually optional. And this is on the fold. This is pattern piece number 7. This is the inside pouches, and you're going to cut 2 of lining and 1 of interfacing. This is pattern piece number 8. This is the tabs, and you're going to cut 3 of contrast and 3 of interfacing. This is pattern piece number 9. This is the racket bag. You're going to cut 2 of fabric, 2 of lining, 2 of interfacing, and 2 of batting. This is pattern piece number 10. This is the Racket bag side panel. You're going to cut one of fabric, one of lining, one of interfacing, and one of batting. This is pattern piece number 11. This is a zipper panel. You're going to cut two of fabric, two of lining, two of interfacing, and two of batting. This is pattern piece number 12. This is the bag back straps. You're going to cut two of contrast and two of interfacing. And lastly, this is pattern piece number 13. This is the Racket bag straps, and you're going to cut two of contrast and two of interfacing. All right, let's cut that fabric out and let's get started. We're going to start with the bag back straps, which is pattern piece number 12. And you're going to place them right sides together. And you're going to pin the sides of the strap closest to the circle markings to create a long strap. And you're going to stitch that together. To finish the short ends of the straps, you're going to fold in the straps about 1/2 inch wrong sides facing on each side. And you're going to place them together wrong sides facing. And so you're going to fold the long end of the straps in wrong sides facing. And then you're going to fold again in half. So it's going to basically look kind of like a sandwich. And you're going to do this all the way through until the other end. And make sure your circle markings are marked. I marked mine on the wrong side, so I'm not going to be able to see them when it's time to sew. So it'd be a good idea to take some pins or some clips and just mark that area before moving forward. And don't forget to finish the other side of the strap. And once you're done, you're just going to top stitch around the outer edge of the straps. Before moving forward onto the bag straps, you can go ahead and work on the tabs. To create the tabs, you're going to fold in the tabs about 1 inch wrong sides facing on each side. And then you're going to fold in half and you're going to top stitch the outer edges of the straps. And the only difference is you're not going to finish the short ends of the tabs. Now we're going to work on the back straps. So notice you see the clips. Those clips are just to mark my circle markings. Because you can't really see the markings on the fabric that I have. And for this part, we're also going to need the tabs. All right, so now we're going to set aside rectangle rings or D-rings. I have D-rings, and then also adjustable sliders. So we need 2 of each of those. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the adjustable slider in first. And you want to make sure that they're on opposite ends. So now I'm going to add the D-rings and I'm going to add them on both sides. So focus on getting the D-ring through and don't worry about the tabs just yet. If you've never used an adjustable slider, this part could be tricky. But all you're doing is you're going to take one end of the strap and you're going to insert it from the underside of the middle bar of the slider. If it's a little tight, you might have to lift up your straps a little bit just to pass it through. But it should pass through as long as your straps are about 1 inch wide. So imagine you're going in a circle. And once you've passed it through, then you're going to bring it over and out the top. You can secure it by stitching the strap or you can use a rivet. This end will now be permanently attached to the slider. Do the same for the other side of the straps. Now you're going to slide the tabs into the D-rings and you're going to fold it. I like to hold it in place with a clip, and then you're going to move on to the bag. So instead of batting, I used foam, which is a great option for making sturdy bags. I also used the spray to hold the foam to the fabric. It also doesn't hurt just to do a stitch around the foam and the fabric, or the batting in the fabric, whatever is your preference. I did both. I used the stitching and I used the spray just for extra security, but you can do either or. I also made my markings on the back of my bag just because I didn't want to ruin the front of the bag. Just make sure, if you need to know where the markings are on the front, you can use pins. First thing I'm going to do is place the snaps, and this is where the Racket bag is going to be attached. So depending on the snaps you use, the socket should be facing out on the right side and the cap should be facing in the wrong side. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, see the instruction manual. And I use an awl, AWL, to pierce the holes for where the snaps are going through. And now I'm going to place my snaps and use the snap tool to keep it in place. Once I've applied my snaps, I'm going to take the other side of the bag, and with right sides facing, I'm going to place the bag pieces together. Then I'm going to pin and stitch those pieces together. When you're done stitching the front and back bag pieces together, top stitch both sides of the seam. Now take the base and you're going to fold it 1/2 inch on the long edges, and you're going to place the base on the center seam line. I like to pin it in place so I know where I'm going to be stitching it. But before you stitch it together, you're going to need to place your back straps. So you're going to take the tabs and you're going to place the tab from the straps about 1/2 inch away from the raw edge of the bag and right under where the edge of the base would be placed. And you're going to stitch those tabs in place. Now that the tabs are secured in place, now you're going to top stitch the long edges of the base. Now we're going to work on securing the top of the bag back straps. So I had marked the top of the bag back straps with clips, and that's just going to tell me where the circle markings are. And I used pins to also hold it in place to the back of the bag. So once it is in place, you're going to fold the straps at the circle markings to form a U shape, and you're going to match the circle markings on the strap, and you're going to place it on the circle markings on the bag. Now you can top stitch over the circle markings in the shape of an X, and make sure you backstitch to keep in place. But this will be better seen at the sewing machine, so let's go. And I love this method because it makes the bag super secure so it doesn't just rip off the handles. So now we're going to be working on the side pockets. You're going to take the outer fabric and the lining of the side pockets, and with right sides together, you're going to pin the top and then you're going to stitch it. You can edge stitch the top of the pocket, or if you are using the double fold bias tape, this would be the time to add it. To add the double fold bias tape at the top edge of the side pockets, first you're going to unfold one edge of the bias tape. Then you're going to align the bias tape with the raw edge against the folded part of the top of the wrong side of the pocket. Pin or clip in place, And then you're going to sew in the first fold. Once you've stitched along the first fold of the line of the bias tape, which is usually about 1/4 of an inch from the edge, you're going to now fold the bias tape up and over to the front side of the pocket. The front of the pocket, you're going to top stitch close to the lower edge of the bias tape. This will catch the folded edge on the back side and secure it in place. All right, so now grab your side panels. Now your side panels for the outside fabric should already have the foam if that's what you are using. And now you're gonna take the side pockets and you're gonna place them on top of the side panels. And you're gonna stitch both ends of the pockets to keep them in place. Now you're gonna create a pleat by bringing the extra fabric of the pocket towards the center. Make sure they meet as close to the middle until the bottom is flat. After you pin it in place, now you're going to stay stitch the bottoms to keep that pleat in place. All right, so go ahead and grab the bag, and with right sides together, you're going to place the side panels on the base. Pin the side panels in place, making sure that it is centered to the center of the base. Stitch the side panels to the base, leaving about 1/2 inch unstitched on each side. So when you're done, this is what it should look like. Notice that the stitch doesn't go all the way to the end. With right sides facing, you're going to place the side panels to the front and back pieces of the bag. So I used clips, but you can also use pins. All right, so once you're done, you're going to stitch all of that together. And now when you turn the bag right sides out, this is what it should look like. And now we're going to work on the inside pouches. You're going to take the inside pouch and with the right sides facing, you're going to stitch the top together. We're going to come back to the inside pouch, but let's move on to our lining for the bag. With right sides together, you're going to stitch the lining of the bag at the bottom. Press the seams open and you're going to top stitch on both sides. Grab the base lining and the stabilizer and you're going to put the base lining over the stabilizer. I used the spray and it worked beautifully. I'm glad I didn't use my sewing machine. I feel like I would have broke it trying to stitch through the stabilizer. But depending on the stabilizer you use, you can certainly sew through it. So now when you are done, you're going to place the bottom of the pouch just below where the base will go. All right, you can grab your inside pouch. I finished the top of mine with double fold bias tape, but of course that is optional. So my base stabilizer is going to be used as a marking for where my inside pouches are going to go. You just want to make sure it is centered to the center seam of the bottom of the bag. And then you're going to stitch the inside pouch to the lining. So once your inside pouches are stitched on and you place the base stabilizer over it, you should not see that stitching line from the inside pouch. Go ahead and do the compartment lines to divide it into 3 separate pouches. Now this is where you would top stitch the base to the bottom of the lining. However, I'm going to hold off on that because my stabilizer is thick and it's going to be a lot harder to do the next step. So I'm going to set the base stabilizer aside and I'm going to move on to the side panels. You're going to attach the side panels in the same way as the outer bag. And when sewing the side panels to the side of the bag lining, you want to leave about a 5-inch opening on one of the sides, opposite to the pouches, ideally. So again, here's that opening. You want to make sure it's at least 5 inches in order for the bag to pass through. So now you're going to turn the bag lining right sides out. With right sides together, you're going to bring the bag facing to the short ends and stitch together. And now you're going to attach the bag lining to the bag facing by placing them right sides together. Make sure you're lining up one of the seams of the bag lining to the seam of the bag facing. Once you're done pinning the lining to the facing, you're going to stitch it together. So I've already pressed my seam towards the lining, and now I'm top stitching around the lining. And this is what it should look like when you are done. Now you're going to add the snaps to the center front and back of the bag facing. You're going to place the cap and socket on the center front and the stud and post on the center back. And it honestly doesn't matter, but this is how I did it. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, refer to the instruction manual. If you want to make sure that your snaps are centered, you can use a ruler, and whatever the full length from one side to the other is, just divide that in two, and that will be your center point. Make sure you leave at least 1/2 inch on the top for the seam allowance. So once you're done adding the snaps to the center front and center back, it's now time to attach the outer bag to the lining. So before you do that, you want to turn the bag lining wrong sides out, and you're going to slide the lining over the right side of the outer bag, matching the seams. And just a quick note, I make sure that my inside pockets are going to be in the back, but it really doesn't matter. Now pin along the top, and then you're going to stitch it together. Make sure the bag straps are secured inside and you don't want to stitch over them. So now you're going to turn the bag right sides out at the opening. And now you're going to push the lining back in. This is also a good time to add your base stabilizer at the bottom of the bag so that it can stand up. And you definitely want to give the top of the bag a good press. You can also add the double fold bias tape at the top. All right, let's move on to the Racket bag. I've already added the foam to the back of the Racket bag using the spray. It also doesn't really matter if you add the snaps before or after the batting or the foam. I think adding the snaps after you add the foam or batting is a little bit better because it is a little bit more sturdy and it's not moving around so much. So it's up to you, but this is my favorite way to do it. So now it's time to apply the zipper. So to apply the zipper, you're going to use the outer fabric and the lining of the zipper panels. You're going to face the zipper up, and with right sides facing, you're going to place the outer fabric on the top and the lining on the back. And you're going to take that to the sewing machine and you're going to sew it together. You're going to repeat on the other side, and you want to top stitch on both ends of the zipper. And now you're going to take your Racket bag side panels, and with right sides facing, you're going to pin them to the bottom end of the zipper panels. The zipper panels should be sandwiched in between the side panels. And when you take it to your sewing machine, you're going to sew right under the base of the zipper, leaving the seam allowance unsewn. Notice that they're not the same width. And so now you're going to trim off any excess from the zipper panel. All right, so let's go back to our Racket bag. And I prepped my bag by putting in the maxi piping. And of course, this is optional, but I think it just adds a special touch. And so here I'm going to just stitch it onto the Racket bag. And now I'm going to go to my lining. So here is my lining. I did interface it. Interfacing, I would say, is somewhat optional if your fabric is thicker. This is also in case your fabric is stretchy, because you don't want a stretchy lining. So now with right sides facing, you're going to pin the Racket bag lining to the lining of the zipper panel, working around to the end of the lining of the side panels. Once you get to the end by the side panels, you're going to notice that the side panels are a little longer than the Racket bag. That is fine. The extra piece can be trimmed off. Now go ahead and take this to your sewing machine. Repeat the steps for the other Racket bag lining. So I'm just going to trim off the excess here. Just make sure it's a clean cut across. Repeat the same steps that you did for the lining for the outer Racket bag. You can turn the lining right sides out, or you can leave it like that as long as you have access to the right side of the zipper panel. So now go ahead and pin around the Racket bag, starting at the zipper panel and working your way to the side panel. And once you're done, take it to the sewing machine and stitch it together. Repeat on the other side. Once it's done, you're going to turn it right sides out, and you're going to stick the lining into the Racket bag. I went ahead and trimmed off the excess side panel, like the lining. And I took my tennis racket and I just wanted to check just to make sure that it fits. Also, the tennis racket could be used to help push that lining all the way in. And you should be able to fit 2 rackets inside. So far, so good. So now I'm going to finish the top by adding the double fold bias tape. So here's the bag and here's the racket bag, and we use the snaps to snap it together. And this is what the completed bag with the racket bag attachment should look like. So now let's take a look at the racket bag straps. Okay, so using the racket bag straps with right sides together, you're going to stitch one side of the strap to create a longer strap. You're going to fold the straps in the same manner that you did the back straps. And then you're going to add your adjustable slider as well as your D-ring. When I fold the strap back on itself, I secured it using a rivet. You only need one tab for the racket bag, and you will need to finish the ends of the tabs. And unfortunately, it got cut off over here, so you can't really see me adding the tabs, but it's basically in the same way that you do the back straps. And last but not least, you will be adding a snap to both ends of the racket bag strap. And now you're done, and this is what your racket bag should look like. You can even change around the straps and hold it more like a purse. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this sew along. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message or make a comment. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to tag Duana Studio when you make your tennis bag.